Welcome to Saturday's Warrior, the channel where we talk all things BYU, Big 12, and realignment. I'm Trevor, and this is Adam.
Hey, Trevor. Happy to be here.
What's up, man? So it is game week. We've already had some college football week 0, and now BYU plays in just a few days. How are you feeling about that?
I am stoked to watch the Cougs. As we'll get into here, questions abound. I don't know if there's a ton I feel certain about as a Cougar fan this year, but man, I just want to see them play. It's so much fun to get them on the field again. So we're just a few days away. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I hate always, looking ahead and wishing time away, looking forward to something. But when college football is just starting to get within reach, it's hard. You get into August and it's hard not to just start
It's
kind of
it's
dreaming
the
of, just a few weeks
yes,
away.
it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Exactly. So, all right. So, like we said, BYU plays this week. We want to do a breakdown of BYU, and this is a video we've been trying to get together on for some time to discuss and break down BYU by position group and basically do our panic rankings, how we feel about each position group. And so we're going to go through and break them all down and basically kind of see where we're at with them and how confident we are in each of these position groups. Now, Adam, before we get into that, last time we did a video, we made our predictions on the season for BYU, and we thought, on wins, losses, and how we thought everything was going to shake out. You came out with them at 5-7. I predicted 6-6, although probably not with a lot of gusto there, so we got a lot of comments of people that were really down on us about that. Have you changed your mind at all as we get closer? I mean, are you warming up to them as the season gets on? Are you starting to look, a little more optimistically?
So we're sitting right now in the fall camp glow, right? Where every team comes out as fall camp national champs. And so how can you not feel a little bit more optimistic about your team after they've been flying around, right? Iron sharpens iron. I don't know what other cliche we've heard like 14 times over the past 6 weeks, but it's all been there. So yeah, I feel a little bit better, not a ton better. I find myself inching more towards 6-6. But I know there was some feedback from the last video where people are like 8-4, we got this, and I'm not in that camp. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to eat crow on that and just be totally wrong. I do respect the fact, like if you listen to Hans Olsen and some other insiders, where they'll just say, look, on paper, it doesn't look like they can do more than 5-7 or 6-6, but there's something different about this team, and they certainly think they can. And so you need that, right? That's step one. If you got a team that doesn't believe in themselves, then you're not going to make it very far. And those are not people who are unfamiliar with football, right? They know what it takes as a team to win. And so you get some good feedback from former players like that. That makes you feel better. But as we'll get into today, there's so many questions, and until you see it on the field, I even hear it from Roderick when he talks. He's like, "Hey, I like what I'm seeing, but you got to see it on the field." And so until you see it on the field, I just can't be that much more optimistic than say 6-6.
So that's what I was going to ask you is, the demeanor has been a little bit different this fall camp. I would say more of kind of a quiet confidence. Does that increase? Does that do more for you than maybe the attitude in these past years where they come in, oh yeah, we're with all guns a-blazing, this a little bit more reserved? Do you buy into that a little bit more, this approach?
So a little bit. I mean, again, it's fall camp, so anyway you come into it, it's all some kind of bravado, right? I mean, these are football players. These are college football players, elite athletes. They're all coming in like they're going to win it all, no matter what the team is. And so it's always with a grain of salt. But I do like that. I much prefer my team to be humble and hungry and be sitting there staring at each other saying, you want to be 5-7 again? You're going to be 5-7 again. That's what everyone's saying. Like, that type of approach definitely serves you better than coming out and saying, yeah, we're probably top 25, right? And you come out with this attitude like, yeah, we've always been good. We're gonna be good. But I like it a little bit more. It still doesn't make me feel like, whew, we're gonna dominate. We could. I see the potential, but I'm not convinced we will.
Yeah, and I mean what is Vegas saying? The over/under is at 4.5, I think, and I wouldn't go as low as 4. I think this team is better than 4. I do think that this team is I think, or I believe when the team talks about all that they're doing, the coaching staff changes and things, um, and even this quiet confidence, as I say, all those things do make me believe that they have improved from where they were last year. And last year, it feels like with a little bit of tweaking and a little bit of things going a little bit differently, the season could have ended up a lot differently, and our perception on this team is flipped completely. I wouldn't say completely, but I also think this team, I wouldn't be shocked. There's no game on BYU schedule that I would be shocked if you told me right now that BYU wins it. But I just don't know if this team can do that week after week enough to, string together enough of those wins, because this is a tough schedule. And we got some really good teams on the schedule, and tough matchups for BYU. And so even improving upon the season, I think it's still a really tough path to get there. But yeah, I believe in this team. I think we can get there. I'm not going this season say it's not going to happen. I'm like, why would I even watch? I believe BYU could do it. I'm just, I'm kind of on the fence. Like, let's see something first. And I
Yeah.
think what this first game is against Southern Illinois is really a litmus test, because when we've struggled early on against teams that we're supposed to blow out, we all know. I don't need to mention the games, but they've been bad omens of and signs of things to come in that season.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, so it's just this weekend, even though it's just Southern Illinois, which is not a bad FCS team, I should point out. They're ranked 11th
Oh, yeah.
in the preseason poll. It's definitely one that you got to go out there and really show out and show what this team has.
You'll know who BYU is after the first 3 games. You'll know uh, how they play against a good FCS opponent, going on the road against a P4 opponent, and then going up to Wyoming. That is not a cupcake preseason walk at all. You'll know right out of the gate how good this team is, and I think it will tell you how they're going to perform in the Big 12. There's not going to be a drastically different team that goes into the Big 12 than what you see in the first 3 games. If we're competitive, and maybe you take a close loss with 2 dominant wins in there, right? A close loss at SMU. Well, you feel pretty good going into the season, like we can pull some upsets. But you
Maybe less
stumble.
so after this last weekend, how SMU.
Yeah. And so I think you know what you have after the first 3 games. I don't see us succeeding in the Big 12 if we can't handle the preseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And this could be one of those seasons where, kind of like last year, where, man, we hung with a lot of these big dogs, but they eventually pulled away. But there's really no moral victories; those don't count for anything. And so at the end of the day, which teams can we really get those wins? And actually, watching SMU, I think a lot of Cougar fans are coming away feeling even more confident. I wouldn't get too ahead of ourselves, because you just never know. You don't want to let your guard down, because I still think that SMU is probably going to show that they're still a pretty capable team. So,
Yeah.
also, well, actually, I'll save that comment. But yeah. So anyway, we've gotten this far, and I haven't even said I want to talk about the lineup for this season as we're going through. So each week after each game, I'm going to do my best to go on, do live stream videos for kind of instant reactions, have people that can come on and leave comments, and I'll answer questions or just kind of feedback, and we'll either celebrate together, maybe vent together, maybe a little bit of both. So make sure you catch those after the games. And then Adam and I will be getting out kind of a deep breakdown of the previous week, as well as a look ahead and some predictions for the upcoming week early in the week. And then and by the end of the week, I will have a guest on from the opposing fan base, another show, another channel, podcast to come on and break down their team with us and how they stack up with the Cougars, amongst other BYU Big 12 content. So please be sure to like this video first, but then subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff, so that you can catch all that content throughout the season. So anyway, now Adam, let's go ahead and move on to our panic rankings now. So
Absolutely.
Here's how I got it set up. We kind of got both of boards for us, so we can both compare. Mine is in the royal blue. I put yours in the navy with the beige on there for.
I'll take that.
You have that
I'll
nice
take that.
there behind you. So
That's right. Yeah, get a little navy, and it's not beige. It's cougar.
okay,
It's the color of a cougar.
that's right.
Taken from Hogle Zoo. So still remember
Perfect.
that when I was 14
I,
years old. It's so cool.
I stand corrected. So if you want to go put your bib on right now, you can.
I will. I'm wearing the bib sometime this season. It's coming out.
All right. So we'll just get to go through and just we're going to start. Number one are the teams that we're most worried about, we're most panicked about, and then we get to the end that the teams we feel most confident in. And so we talked a little. I don't have like a super firm order on this. I went through. I did rank them all, but there's some I could kind of be talked into moving around. But I think it'll still be interesting to see kind of more or less how we gauge these teams.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and tell us your number one? The number
I'll
one
kick
team
us off.
panicked on.
Number one most panicked on is the quarterback. I could go a few different areas for number one, but and I'm going to try and be as brief as possible because I've got strong opinions about this. But we're all hyped on the quarterback right now, which is good. I want these guys to go in with confidence into the season. But how often have you seen a quarterback play poorly through half a season and then just light it up the next year? Right? It's happened, but it doesn't happen very often. Or how often do you see a quarterback get injured, have almost 2 years away from the game, and come back and just light it up? It happens. It doesn't happen often. And
Cam
so I
Rising.
feel light it up, right? High performance. um, I better be careful. That guy might tear it up this year. So
Right.
might. My point is, you bring in these two guys and you hope one of them makes that jump. As unlikely as it is, you hope one of them makes that jump. And I'm super concerned that neither of them really went head and shoulders. So one of two things is happening. Either both have made this really improbable leap ahead, or both, or neither have made that leap, right? And the most likely scenario is that neither one really stood out. And I know the coach speak. I know everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, they're both playing great." That you got to say that, right? And you got to see it that way. And when you're assessing your quarterbacks, you got to say that to the media. But man, I am panicked about the quarterbacks because if one of them had dominated in fall camp and everybody says, "Oh yeah, we're gonna coalesce around this guy," it's obvious that so and so is the starter. That's one thing. But it was clear in the coach's comments that that did not happen. And you got two guys who really faced an uphill battle to take that next step. And I am in preseason panic mode that really did not happen with either of them.
I think you're absolutely right, and we've beat this topic to death. You know, I've done some other videos, had some guests on, so I'll put those in the comments if you want to go back and check those. But I don't want to rehash all of it. But yeah, it worries me a little bit to the extent that Jake Retzlaff didn't fully pull away from an injured, still recovering Bohannon, and then when they got back, that this guy just a few months later was able to pull away from Jake, and then Jake was able to catch up. So I'm like, am I more worried that the healthy guy couldn't pull away from the injured, recovering, coming back, or am I more worried that that he was able to pull away, And so either way you look at it, it's it's not ideal, and both bring a similar game, some different strengths. I think what gets me is that now A-Rod, he was talking about, well, we don't want to announce one before, the game, keep them guessing and have them prep for both. I was like, that is not the answer I wanted to hear. I mean, for SIU, because you'd think, well, okay, but by week 2, they should know, right? And I expect both these guys to play game 1. I would hope so, that we're up by enough. Either we're up by enough that you can play both comfortably and maybe even a third quarterback, or you or you aren't, and you need to make a QB switch. And so either way, I expect to see both guys this week. And I just don't know what the advantage is of holding that back from SIU. If anything, I would say, hey, give your guy a vote of confidence. Like if it really is a coin flip, you have to pick one. and go with it. Like really own it and say, hey, you're our guy. We're going to publicly say you're our guy, and we're
Yep.
going to move forward. And also knowing that, hey, if this guy doesn't live up to the billing, we have another option to put them in and see what they can do. And so I do think Retzlaff will be better. Um, if he, and it sounds like by all accounts that he's going to be the guy. It sounds like that's what's leaking out there. And so to at least start game one. But if he can, I think, keep the ball secure, not turn it over, he doesn't have to do miraculous things. He doesn't have to be, Max Hall. He also doesn't have to be Taysom Hill. He can just be himself and just kind of settle in. I think there's enough weapons on offense that, and if some of these other position groups that we'll get to fix some of the things they say they're going to, I think that he'll be able to, just kind of play his game and just, I know people hate this term, but be a game manager and go in there and try not to do too much. And if he can do that, I think we can still see a successful BYU team without stellar QB play.
Yeah, I think you could thread that needle. I don't know that Jake Retzlaff has it in his blood to do that, to be a game manager. He is a gamer. Like you
Yeah.
just see it. He's electrifying. He really is. When he's on, you can see the potential there. And if he does put it all together this season, man, he's going to be so much fun to watch because he has it in him. But I agree. I don't know that BYU, if the other position groups step up, I don't know that you need an all-star quarterback because you have a good supporting cast. I don't know. I don't know that he can do that. It's just not his style.
And Bohannon's proven that he can. I
Mm-hmm.
think from what I've heard, it sounds like he lacks a little bit of touch in some of the throwing game that Jake has, and so maybe that would be the reason. But boy, you would think that he would certainly open up the run game as
Yeah.
being someone that they have to spy and keep an eye on. So
Yep.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. Whatever it is, I hope it works out. But yes, definitely, this is the number one concern for everybody. But we will see on Saturday.
Yeah.
But okay, so number two, I'll go ahead and tell you the one I
Yeah.
am, and there's several, but I would say the one that I'm after the QB that I'm most panicked about is the defensive tackle position. Our defense was terrible last year, although some of that was because the offense couldn't stay on the field. I don't think that was all on the defense, but one thing we weren't doing was sacking quarterbacks. We weren't really putting pressure on them, and I think it's from what it sounds like coming out of camp is that nobody's really pulled away at the defensive tackle position, and they're still kind of figuring things out there. So for me, that's my second biggest worry.
You can put defensive tackle on number 3 for me. It's
Okay.
up there, and I'll reveal my number 2 in a minute. The defensive tackle, the issue I have there is the size. Our starters are 290 and 275, and it's not. I don't care how good your technique is. I don't know how good your leverage is, how strong you are. You need girth. You need size there. And our guys who are, what worries me most is we have guys who are 305, 315, and they're buried on the depth chart. They can't get up to the top. So what does that tell you? Your technique guys are starting, right? And if our starters were 305 and 315 and your backups are 290, 270, that's okay. That's all right. We'll rotate that in there. You don't need to have every guy be Danny Saili at 355 pounds who we lost to Arkansas, right? You don't have to have every guy be that. But man, when your starters are undersized, it terrifies me. Once we get into league play, I really get concerned about that. I agree. But number 2, I'm going to go with our offensive line. And I'm going with the offensive line because of how they played last year. And what I have right now is coach speak that they have improved. Now I love listening to Connor Pay when he gets on a weekly podcast. I love that guy. And I trust his assessment because he's brutally honest. I think they have clearly made strides, right? They're going to be better. And Caleb Etienne, is he really the solution at left tackle? Is he really made that jump? Maybe,
He looks
but
great.
oh my goodness, it was so tough to watch last year. And me being a fan, not a former college football player, not understanding the technical side of the game well enough to diagnose what's going on, you're just looking at it like, why can't we run the ball? I don't understand why we can't run the ball. We have this talented offensive line and we can't put it together. And so I hope I'm wrong, but for my panic level, it's that offensive line. And as much as I want to see our quarterback shine against SIU, if we fire off the ball and just beat the crud out of that defensive line and run for 300 yards, I'll be delighted. I'll be over the moon that we're going to be okay this season because that offensive line is taking steps forward.
I know it's hard to think we lost a guy that's going to be starting for the Chiefs at left tackle, and that we've gotten our O line has gotten better. And so, actually, when we first talked about doing these rankings, the first two position groups that jumped to mind were quarterback and offensive line. For various reasons, they worked their way up to 5 instead of 2 for me, but um, for some, I maybe I'm just buying into the hype, but two, I felt like there was talent, but it was, and they seemed to be putting it together a little bit at the end of the season last year, and you saw some of that. And so I started feeling like, okay, if there really is that level of, coaching coming in to really improve what these guys were doing, get them organized, because sometimes Caleb Etienne, like you said, like not really having the football background, be able to spot, well, he's just standing there. He's not even blocking anybody. It's not that like I can tell his scheme is wrong. He's just that he's literally doing nothing. So you have to feel like, they're and unlike the quarterback situation, they went ahead and said, it's him, he's our guy. And they had the confidence in that. Now, whether they truly believe in him that much or not, I don't know, but they felt like, hey, this is who we're going to go with. Let's give him that vote of confidence and let's go forward. And I'm guessing after last year, that's probably something that ETN needed to boost him.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I did move them up because there's some other, as I took a closer look, other groups that maybe I feel a little less good about, but then also I think some of that I'm just buying into the hype, I guess, from the coaching.
I love it. Drink that blue Kool-Aid.
Yeah, why not? Um,
We're going to be better. TJ Woods is a different coach. He's a better coach. There's going to be improvement. It's a question of how much, I think.
yeah, but yes, how much? But I mean, it can't be worse.
I
So,
hope.
well, yeah, I guess I shouldn't, shouldn't say that. I guess I'm jinxing us, but yeah, I just feel like there's got to be improvement. And again, it was signs at the end of last season,
Yeah.
coupled with improved coaching, that I think, okay, maybe we're really on to something. But yeah, I don't know. I am worried. Certainly. Okay. So at number 3 for me, I have the edge rush here. And so again, I think it goes back to, I guess, kind of like with the defensive tackles. Yes, you have Batty, but you want to see a little bit more. Even granted, he was getting a lot of attention, sometimes probably double teams, and so he wasn't always getting to the quarterback either. You'd like to see a little more of that. He's certainly been recognized at the Big 12 level, and he's one of the stalwarts. He came back another year, and so I I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself out of having him at number 3, but just looking at production and what other guys they have, so I'm still worried about their capability of really being able to, put that pressure on there, because the rest of the defense, they're doing their thing, but if we can't get to the quarterback, if we can't stop the run, if we're going to face some of those same mobile quarterbacks, a lot of those same offenses, and if we can't figure out a solution for those, then I think we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually had them at number 4, right after the defensive tackles, for the exact same reasons. Batty, it's funny because Batty is your best player on that team, hands down. He is, but he hasn't been able to get to the quarterback because you double and triple team him, because everybody else, you just, they have not been effective. And so I'm not convinced that Banya or Latui can really step up and get there. Ephraim Asiata, all 215 pounds of him, can he get to the quarterback at the collegiate level? There's some rising stars in this position, but I've got a high level concern for the reasons you gave.
Yeah, and we talk about the quarterback with not being able to select people, and the roster, what is it? The depth chart came out today. We're recording Monday, and looking at it, typical Satake, depth roster has a million oars on there, and for defensive end with Tyler Batty, he's clearly the number 1, but then you look at oh shoot, I lost my spot now. But where is anyway? You have some of these other guys. You have Oars next to him. Yeah, Banya and you know, Ephraim Asiata, who's a true freshman coming in. The fact that they're having Oars by these guys' names, and that's these guys are supposed to be there helping you, and they can't really. They don't have the confidence in that side. It looks like yet, and so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
All right, so have we both done two? So that's you.
Yeah. So next, I've got corner, where perhaps your next best player on defense, maybe it'd be Micah Harper, but Jacob Robinson is going to anchor one side of that. They're going to be great. And I just don't know enough about Mark Collins. Moribamba certainly has the intangibles, and so and boy, Gennaro Guilford is such a good coach. Our corners have been better than at any other time in BYU history, except maybe 1996. They consistently year over year when he coaches them, they are so good. And so I have all the confidence in the world that he can coach this crew up. The reason they're this high on my panic rankings is really I just don't know anything about that other corner. And what happens if Jacob Robinson goes down? Right? I mean, he's been a little slight of build, hasn't had injury problems, but if he goes down, look out. I mean, I worry about how we recover from that. So I just feel like we're a little thin there. There's a ton of potential. You got Jonathan Cabella, you got Trey Alexander. I mean, some really, really promising young stars coming up there. Would love to see McKenzie out there. So there's some really good names coming up, but you just haven't seen them on the field besides Jacob Robinson.
Yeah, that's a note I have is basically young but talented. That's exactly what I was thinking. So there's lots of unknown there, and you make some good points. I have them a little bit higher up on here, but mostly for two words, which you already said, Jacob Robinson, and that just shows you how much confidence I have in him in that position. You're right. If he goes down, who knows what'll happen? But also that seems to be a strength, I guess, of a J-Hill defense. I know we're losing Eddie Heckard, which is a bummer because I love that guy. Can you imagine if he would have started BYU getting 4 years of him? He would have been. I mean, he already was a fan favorite, but yeah. So I don't know. I feel like there were some questions a little bit last year, and that wasn't really an issue with the defense. That wasn't where our biggest weaknesses were, and so it's hard. And you're right, it could be with a lot of unproven guys, but I think with that kind of talent, I guess I'm just more hopeful. I'm not panicked on them yet, I guess. Okay, so I got to come down my list. So I guess my number 4.
Yeah, who do you got at 4?
Okay. I got the linebacker at 4.
Whoa. All right, I want to hear this.
Well, okay, so I guess I'm panicking because Bywater's out, and I felt like a lot of this position group was really based on Bywater coming back, and people felt good about that. And then him pulling out, and when he did, and then obviously no more Thule. There's some turnover here, and I would guess I mean, looking at it too, I don't know. Maybe I didn't take everything into consideration when I made this because people are hopeful about Harrison Taggart. I wouldn't say I'm panicked. I'm just worried. Not worried, even just.
You're fumbling with your adjective there. Come on, Trevor. What
should I say?
You like him? You don't like him? You're worried?
I like him. I wouldn't say I'm worried about him, but it's I want to see it.
Yeah.
And so
I
guess
the defensive production last year dropped noticeably when Bywater went out and Taggart stepped in, who's a 4-star athlete, great guy, but you have to see that I feel the same way. I think Taggart's phenomenal, and I think he's going to make that jump this year. But we dropped off in our ability to stop the run when Bywater left last year, and we never really recovered.
And actually, as I look at this, I kind of want to shift everything because I put the cornerbacks as high as I did. I'm calling an audible.
Whoa.
You know why? Again, it's another player. we got Jack Kelly. And from the one thing
Yes.
that's consistent out of camp has been the name Jack Kelly. And everyone says to watch out for him and saying, this is a dude and this is the guy to watch. And so actually that alone, I even 5 probably, maybe that was an oversight when I did it. But yeah, having Bywater out does have me feel a bit panicky. And so maybe I overreacted to that bit of news, but I don't know. Oh, what do you think about it?
Well, so I've got my linebackers at 9. So this is probably the one where we differ the most. Um, losing Bywater is a huge blow. Huge blow. The experience. I mean, he is the quarterback of the defense out there. He's so talented. It just breaks my heart for the guy. But the depth there has been astounding. Where you've got Jack Kelly. I do like Harrison Taggart starting there. I love seeing Isaiah Glasker finally break the starting 3 there. That was really cool to see. 6'5", runs like a safety. I've waited to see him on the field forever. And that highlight they showed him doing the one-handed interception in the end zone at the scrimmage was so cool. So I'm excited about that. I'm very surprised to see Sialia Serra as low as he was on the depth chart. Not only second string, but with an or attached to him as half the depth chart is. Because I thought he'd get a starting nod. I mean, he is so athletic. He's 250 pounds. He moves like a running back. I mean, he is your prototypical middle linebacker, and I can't wait to get him back on the field. So the depth there. I mean, then you got Ace Kafusi, and you got Sione Moa, who people are talking about. And so it just seems like we have linebacker after linebacker there who can step in. But as you alluded to, it's not a done deal, right? Harrison Taggart he's got a jump he needs to make to get to Bywater level, and he seems like he has that potential in him, but you got to see it on the field.
You mentioned Kafusi, and you got to feel good whenever you see Kafusi out there. So
absolutely,
just gotta warm the cockles of your heart. So and it does, you're right. Linebacker should probably be higher than even 5 here on my list, but that's where I had him, and I was in panic mode when I did it, and that's what this is all about.
That's right. It's all about panic.
So okay. Who do you got?
Well, at number 6, I got safeties. Super excited to have Micah Harper back. Just one of my favorite players to watch in 2022. Love that he's back there, and I think we'll get some really cool packages with him at nickel. Talon Alfrey's back, and I've never been sold on him. I don't know. In 22 he wasn't quite as dominant. 23 he was going to be the guy. Got injured. I've got to see that one. And then you got Tanner Wall, a walk-on. Cool story. Started as a receiver, switched to safety. But man, that just doesn't ring with confidence in me. I watched these safeties get bludgeoned last year as we were getting into 3rd and 4th string guys who came in courageously and did what they could. Crew Wakely, Tanner Wall was really starting to come along before he got injured. So it just, I don't feel great. You got amazing potential there, and I love to see these true freshmen cracking the depth chart. Tommy Prastis is a name that comes to mind. And so there's Raider Demooney you want to see a little bit more of, and there's potential there, and I feel like we've signed this 4-star safety after 4-star safety. I want to get him on the field instead of these walk-ons that I'm super happy for him, but I always feel like when a walk-on is starting, it's like, well, what happened to the 4-star we recruited? Like, did he not get the defense? Is he just not? So it doesn't make me feel great. There's too much chaos going on. I mean, I don't have these. They're not in my top 3 worry list because there's a ton of talent there. But I'm also did put them down at 11 because there's some question marks.
Okay. Well, I was actually, this is where we differ a little bit as well. I had him a bit higher, and again, you're having me question everything, but I guess where I look at it is, I guess just like Ben Bywater shook me, I guess I felt good about having Harper back, but also just the amount of depth. And I felt like, okay, yeah, the lack of depth showed last year, but a lot of these guys were playing, and I didn't feel like as thin as we were, I didn't think they were really the main reason why our defense was struggling most of the time. And so I felt like
that's fair.
Bring back some of these guys. Again, this is all assuming we can stay healthy, but I have to feel like, okay, even if we get hurt again, I feel like we guys who have a lot of guys who have been there and shown some level of competency and production in that position. And so I guess that is why I was feeling better about it. Is just you got last year it was kind of a baptism by fire, and guys got thrown in the deep end. And this year now they're coming back, and they're on. Some of those guys are buried, in the depth chart now. And so I feel like that's a good thing, a good sign for the position group. But
I don't want to pop your bubble. They're probably going to be great. And Tyler Algier was a walk on the switch positions from defense to offense. Tanner Wall can make that same jump. So yeah, I hope I eat my words on that one. I'm sure. I think once the chaos settles down a little bit and we become more familiar with these names, they'll be great.
We can come back and review mid-season or at the end of the season and see,
see how off we are.
Which position groups really were the worst and which ones were the best. Which ones should we have been worried about?
We need some accountability.
Yes. Okay. So I guess that puts me at 6. So, okay, this is one. I got the running backs at 6. And the reason for that is, it's right here kind of in the middle, and I go back and forth. So I love LJ Martin, but I'm not completely, and I love, we've seen flashes of both Hinckley Rapati and Miles Davis. And so I think that I'm just worried about the depth. Like both of those guys were great in limited action. You bring them in for a couple plays, and obviously Miles Davis is kind of a different kind of back. He's more of your speedy guy as opposed to these bruisers. But we're going into this with LJ Martin, who I feel really good about, already a little banged up. And so there's some question as to what his health is. And then I don't know what kind of depth we have behind him. And so that is my worry, especially these last couple of years where we've seen a lot of issues with that. Other than Algier, even go back to like Tyson Williams, he was great and then got injured and we had no depth behind it. And so I feel like that was an element that really, not being able to run the ball really made our offense very predictable. And so, even though I feel good about the personnel, I'm really worried about our ability to keep everybody healthy and then continue to execute and make sure that we're effective in that phase of the game, those for running plays and everything in order to open things up for the passing game. Because as is evidenced by our number 1 pick, we're really worried about the quarterback. And so you got to take pressure off of him.
Yeah. And you make a great point. If I'm putting enough weight on injury concerns, running backs are going to rank pretty high on my panic rankings because you have injury concerns about LJ Martin, which he was the healthy one last season and suddenly struggles through spring and fall camp with injuries. Rapati and Davis have both missed full seasons because of injuries in the recent past. So that is a concern. It really is a concern. I have them at number 8 because I love their talent. I love the combination of those 3 running backs. I think all 3 of them could potentially start at a P4 school. The talent is there. And so you got to imagine 1 or 2 of them are going to go down to injury at some point during the season. They've been a somewhat fragile group. Is there depth behind that? Haunga probably. We'll see him as a true freshman coming in. I'm really excited to see him. But outside of that, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough depth. It will probably be tested at some point. But boy, I love the talent. Miles Davis has been one of my favorite players since he started because rarely do you get a player who every time they touch the ball, they have that potential. Taysom he was the quintessential one who could do that. Ronnie Jenkins comes to mind. There's just Luke Staley, a handful of players that are so fast they can get all the way downfield and just blow everyone away. BYU isn't known for the speed school. We're not Oregon, and so when you get guys like that, they're so much fun to watch. And I hope he gets the ball enough this year because I enjoy watching that.
That's the thing, is it's been in limited sample size. So it'll be interesting if he gets more action and there's more plays called for him, if the defense can dial in a little bit more and be a little more prepared for him.
Yeah, they've been surprised. Yeah, he's surprised his defense. You can tell they don't take the right angle on him. They don't expect it. And so it's true. If there's more reps and they see him on film, maybe he's less effective in that. And you got to work harder to get him the ball in open space.
Okay.
All right. So my number 7 is the tight end group. Feel a little bit better about them than I do the running backs, mostly because the running backs are slightly more proven. You got Keanu Hill, who's starting, obviously going to be awesome. But the reality is he still has not played tight end. He has not ever played a down at tight end. So we all know Keanu Hill. We know how good he is. He's a great blocker. He's a great receiver. He's got all the elements you need. And now he weighs 240 pounds. Look out. I don't want to meet that guy over the middle of the field. So I think he's going to be fantastic. And that's why I've got him as far down as 7. But the reality is he hasn't taken snaps at tight end. Ethan Erickson hasn't done that much. And then the guys behind him, you got some true freshmen. I don't see Jackson Bowers cracking the depth chart. I'd like to see that. Reiner Swanson's going to be amazing, obviously. Also never taken a snap at BYU. So there's just not a lot there to go on. Otherwise, I'd have him higher on my list. But I've got him at 7 because the talent's there, and you got to feel good about Keanu anchoring that group.
Yeah, so I have tight end where I have him at number 9. Actually, I mean, you summed it up pretty well. I feel pretty high on Keanu Hill. When he was out there, when he was healthy and playing, I mean, he was just one of those guys who just seemed unstoppable. And he was, the yak guy, the yards after catch. Like people couldn't bring him down. So if he's putting on
dragging people into the end zone, yeah.
The other thing, I vividly remember plays where he's down there blocking downfield for other people. And so
many times
the blocker. And now that's probably going to be different blocking wide receivers like defensive back, safeties or whatever versus going down and blocking, on the line. And these guys are going to be much bigger. And so that will be a new thing. But the fact that he's shown that and everyone feels like this is his natural kind of where his weight has settled is fits his frame and everything better. I'm just excited to see what he can bring there. Reiner Swanson, everyone, seems pretty high on him coming in as a really young guy. I think still 17. So, I don't know. The talent's definitely there. We'll see if the production is. But the other thing is, I guess it's because I had him here because they're not – and maybe it depends on the quarterback, and so we'll see. But the tight ends aren't always utilized all that often. We know that Zach Wilson really liked his tight ends, but Jaron Hall, it was a little bit less so. And so I feel like our offense can still thrive, especially with who we've got at wide receiver. If we don't have to rely solely on the tight ends. I don't know. Maybe that's a too reductive way of looking at it, but that's kind of how I felt about it. Okay.
All right. Are you up?
You're 8. Yeah, I think I'm up. Okay. I got special teams here at 8. And I think Will Farron is solid. I'm not really concerned about him at all. We do have a change at punter. Whenever you lose a guy like Ryan Rico, it's we don't know. It's unproven, the guys that we have coming in behind him. And so he was outstanding. We've been lucky to have some great punters over the last several years and some great production out of them. And so I think this is something that if and when our offense sputters a little bit, it's great to be able to flip the field, take a little bit of that pressure off of the defense. And so that'd be the only reason why I'm a little panicky is a strong word for how I feel about special teams. I feel pretty solid. And it sounds like for returns, we're going to have Parker Kingston and Marion return. I can't remember which one was punt and which one was kick return, but those guys are set. And so I feel like it's going to be really solid. I'm not too worried. I just still have some question marks, so I didn't feel good putting them even higher.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And what you almost want your special teams to be boring, just consistent, boring, good. I'd love it when we get a punter like Brian Rico who can just flip the field, but we don't have to have that. If you got a good coverage team, they can cover down on a 45-yard punt, great. I mean, and that's what it seems to me. I agree. Will Farron was consistent. He was good. He showed some clutch kicking. He showed some distance. I think he's great. And our punter is coming in from a fellow P4 program. He's got a leg. He can get it done. Our returners are going to be there. I don't see us um, losing a lot of games because of our special teams. And I don't necessarily see him making flashy plays, hitting a 60-yard field goal or a bunch of kick returns, punt returns. But I think they'll be good. So yeah, I put him in at number 10. Certainly not our top crew, but I put them just under there just because they've been um, they've been solid and not a whole lot of change there in a way that's going to worry us. So putting wide receivers number 1 or number 11, I should say. How can you not? This is the deepest crew we have or we have had in a long time. I mean, so many good names. How do you get them all on the field? They ended up putting 8 wide receivers on the depth chart somehow, and with some oars and some creative things on there. I hope we get to see a lot of JoJo Phillips. That guy, his 6'5", his catch radius is huge. Just the potential he has there seems so much fun to watch. And the rise of Cody Epps again, a healthy Cody Epps. When that guy's healthy, he cannot. You can't guard him. I don't care who it is. They can't. Notre Dame came in with a vaunted secondary, a very good defense, and they could not stop the guy. He was wide open that game. And so when he's healthy, he is so good. And I'm really excited to watch that group this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's a lot there to say. This shouldn't surprise anybody. Just the amount of depth and from all those one-handed grabs we saw last year. I did another video doing a top offensive play of each game. I was going through and trying to find these highlights, and it was just, again, it was like another one-handed grab or miraculous, and it was the same guys. There was a number of Chase Roberts, and he had Darius Lassiter there on offense, and it was just over and over again. And so, yeah, I feel really good about them. And if, which I hope, nothing happens, but if anyone does go down for any amount of time, that you feel confident about the guys behind them and what they're able to bring. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Plus there's no reason to be worried about the wide receivers because it sounds like we don't have a quarterback that can get them the ball anyway. So
look out. Look out.
I'm just kidding. They make it easy. I mean, you saw, on one hand, last year, we talk about all the one-handed grabs on one hand, no pun there. But on the other hand, it was a shame because these guys had to make those kinds of grabs. Those were the positions they were in. And so, that these guys are going to go reeling in anything within a reasonable radius of them that they can go up and get it. And so, that may take off some of the pressure of the quarterbacks if, getting the touch on the ball isn't their strong suit. So we'll see. But yeah, certainly least panicked about wide receivers. My biggest panic about that is when they all start graduating and leaving the program. So.
Well, then that makes room for Cody Hagan and more cash for JoJo Phillips. So they got a bright future there. Yeah, and another Nakua coming in. It's fun to see. I'll tell you, Fezi Satake is done an amazing job, and I hope that continues because it's been a really impressive run there. I think Puka's success in the NFL certainly hasn't hurt that. People want to come play for us and see what's possible. So as long as that success continues, I think we'll see a good recruitment line and good wide receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. So. All right. Well, looking at this, any last comments as you look at this whole thing? What do you expect to see from these guys this year that we didn't touch upon, or do you want to change anything now that you're looking at it?
No, I'm going to stick to my picks, but I do like the idea of coming back and eating our words here in the next 9 or 10 weeks. I really do think I think there's a better chance than either of us have really thrown out here for our quarterbacks to do well. I think there's a good chance our offensive line can take a step forward. We were close last year, and it's hard to see this team performing the way they did last year, really making a huge leap. But at the same time, when you see the way they play against Oklahoma State, the offensive line starts to gel, and you get a strong running game with LJ Martin healthy. Yeah, then the quarterback has time to throw, and I think either Bohannon or Retzlaff with time to throw can get it to these really talented wide receivers. And we could have an offense again. You have an offense again, you got a chance in any of these games in the Big 12. But you don't want to get your hopes up because, man, it hurts. 5-7 hurts.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and you mentioned, and maybe that's another argument to have offense, or the offensive lineup at two, because I felt like so much, so many of our issues derived from the poor offensive line play last year, that you feel like if they kind of get their ducks in a row and even just play well, like not amazing, just well, that some of these other groups can do what they need to do. And it may be
Yeah.
enough to,
Totally agree, and that's I had them number 1 when we first started talking about this, and if we had selected a quarterback by now, I probably would have put quarterbacks down at number 2, and wouldn't be so concerned, but offensive line was my number 1 because I agree, as the offensive line goes, so will the team go, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy listening to Connor Pay so much, and just to hear him as team captain now, talk about it. It's fun to hear the technique and the inside scoop on what's going on with TJ Woods, and you really hope that they can make that jump. It's just such a good group of guys. They're so talented, and if they can come together, yeah, that as that offensive line improves, I think the whole team will follow their lead.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, excellent. So hopefully we have a great season. I'm expecting, I'm excited for this weekend, as we all are, expecting a great showing from this team. I think hopefully they can fine tune what they need to out of these groups, get rid of some of those ores, and lock down their depth charts, and get them all ready for the season. We've got some big ones. I don't know how much you've been exposed to SMU fans on social media or anything, but they are obnoxious. They are some of the the most annoying. So we cannot lose that game. So we really need to
Ba-
figure things out fast.
based on how their team acted against Nevada on the field, it sounds like their fans might might follow suit.
Yeah.
That was kind of an ugly showing against Nevada with just the lack of sportsmanship on both sides. So hopefully we can get in there, keep our heads high. We've been spit on before, right? Last season, and so we know we know how that goes.
Okay.
With more Spitgate, we'll get through it.
All right. Excellent. So let us know in the comments what you think of our panic rankings. How would you rank the position groups? Go ahead and leave those in the comments. Be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, as we mentioned before, so you can catch all of our content, from instant reactions to previews to deep dives into the opponents and all the other stuff we've got coming this season, so you don't miss any of that. And as always, Adam, go Cougs.
Go Cougs!